Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name is Ben Jackson and I'm back to host this one, and somehow, remarkably, the man that's been a constant throughout the last couple of weeks, Scott, is actually not here for this one. So apologies to all you Scott Coyne fans and part of the Scott Coyne fan club, which I'm sure does exist somewhere in Belgium. We are definitely both part of that as well. But Joris is here, so it's not just me. Don't worry, we're not going back to the dark days of the first two episodes of this podcast. But Joris, how are you doing this evening?
Well, as president of the Scott Coyne fan club, I'm not so happy that he's not there, but I guess he deserves some rest after some busy weeks with the podcast and around the podcast as well. But I'm sure, I guess a well-deserved rest. How I'm doing? Well, better than my side, I guess.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. And yeah, Scott has been busy with a couple of special episodes. Hopefully, people were able to listen to the Cup preview. And then we will have another one coming out at some point with newly promoted Ral La Louvière, which should be good. We're looking forward to seeing what Scott got up to in that one as well. So yeah, enjoy your rest, Scott. I'm sure he'll be listening with a Belgian beer in hand, as he usually would be. Like kind of last week, I think we're gonna follow a similar format now for the rest of the players, where we're just gonna kind of bunch the games and the teams into their kind of respective playoffs and just talk about them like that. So we'll start in playoff one. Obviously, because of the cup final between Club and Anderlecht, the games will kind of push a little bit further kind of forward. So on Thursday, Antwerp lost 3-1 to an Anderlecht side that was completely different to what we saw in the cup final. Club beat Ghent by 4-1, and on Saturday evening, Union beat Genk 1-0. Massive result there. Joris, I guess we should start with that game because it's kind of has the most meaning on it, and you can then get it out of your system and early, and we can talk about the other stuff. So out of your reactions to that win, obviously huge one for Union. For Genk, that probably is it. Well, it is it, I guess we could say, for the title, barring kind of some miracles from Antwerp, Anderlecht and Ghent, which I don't think you're kind of betting on. How did you feel? Yeah, kind of now that perhaps you guys aren't in the title race anymore, how do you feel kind of the season as a whole? Kind of, are you happy with how things went because it wasn't expected potentially? Like, yeah, what are you feeling? Tell us.
Mainly what you just said, yes. Of course, it wasn't a balanced season. It went downhill really quickly. I don't think many people saw it coming that it would be, what is it now, one point out of the last 5 games, that it would be such a crash in the playoffs. Also considering, even with losing against Club Brugge and Union, if they would have just, and that's, okay, just is not the right word, but if they would have taken, I guess, the expected points against Antwerp, 5 points extra, and the story is completely different again, and they're really still, despite some losses, in a good position, or at least definitely in the race. So these 2 games are a bit of a shadow for the season. The whole playoffs, for sure, that put some shadow on it. But I really did not expect to have this kind of season anyway. It's difficult to say that now, still in the midst of everything, and to be such so bringing on some nuances there. But had a great season. Very terrible playoffs. Okay, still 3 games to go. Title not likely, but who knows what's still possible. Hopefully they can at least get some good feelings back ahead of next season already as well. And then next season is another beast, of course, again, with also more games with Europe coming, and so on. But overall, I'm happy. But I probably would have been somehow happier if they would have circled around 3rd spot the whole season, and now still be in that position, or maybe coming from 5th place to 3rd or something like that, which does not really make sense, I guess, in all things considered. Also, I mean, that's not true. At least there was this hope, but it's a hope that kills you sometimes, of course, as many people know. But that's. It was a good season, and now the last few weeks, there are some doubts about some things already as well, but I think it's a bit early to, I mean, it's a young squad as well. I was hoping, as I mentioned, after the first match day in the playoffs, I guess, that for example, Carretzes, but also actually other players being young, would despite what already had been said, playing in the advantage instead of the disadvantage of Genk in the development of those players. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like it is happening. But I mean, as long as they learn from it, and then busy transfer window coming up most likely, even though they don't want to have it, but especially falling down a few places now, some players might need some more convincing to maybe stay at the club, which after the season they had will many players will have gathered a lot of interest. Might have waned a little bit lately, but to be honest, it's still a relatively small amount of games that we're talking about now. Of course, some things might depend also a bit on how we come out of the last 3 games now as well. But that just not really good enough, I guess. Ultimately, of course, it does not help. Like we said, talked about last week very briefly. Like not with the referees not being very kind to us, even in this game. Unfortunately, this was the case. One maybe with a penalty, although I mean you probably can give it, but it did break the rhythm. Even though Penders made a really good save. That's it's fortunately it was 5 games, 5 games in a row. They conceded a penalty. Penders saved 2 and very narrowly saved the third one in Brugge. The first one, of course. That would have been a different story as well. If he would have taken that one, maybe that could have completely turned some fates from both of those sides actually around. But I'm gonna make the joke myself, of course. Henk had his campaign before the start of the playoffs, some strive for 5 for the 5th championship title. Yeah, they got 5 penalties in a row against them in the row instead. It's a bit of a trade-off, but at least we got some of it. This is all a bit more cynical than I feel. And of course, that was one feat, and then also the Bangura second yellow card specifically. I guess I feel it was a bit harsh. Not even you in the sense of even you, but more like not as a non-Genk fan. Said like, well, it's a bit light for this game at least. I mean, I suppose you should not take that into consideration as a referee on the one hand, but on the other hand, the inconsistency is not always very great. Also, when you saw, so in the sense of, I think at both sides actually, and I'm not gonna play the only Union was playing on the edge, but Genk, which was a positive for Genk actually, I guess. Did as well, and probably deserved some cards extra in the first half already. Of course, they were not given. Then right before Bangura's yellow card, second yellow card, which was like I said, is a correct decision. But like half a minute before that, there's a quite tough tackle from Van der Perre who doesn't get a yellow card. And of course, after the red card fell, then the yellow card started coming in. So that's a bit of the annoying thing about referees and about football. I mean, it happens. It's not the only game this happens in, of course. But it's always frustrating as fan of a side that has not been very lucky, especially as well with the referees lately and with some decisions. But okay, on the other hand, you can also put a little blame on Fink maybe, because that I would have taken Bangura off after the first half anyway, because he already got that first yellow when it was that was a well-deserved one as well. And it was a risk with how the game was going as well, that there might be some counters coming. It's a stupid place as well to get that second yellow card. So it's a learning process, I suppose, as well for him. For Bangura, a learning process, and for Fink maybe as well. Although, that's I feel like he probably should have done that. And then it was a weird thing, specifically about this game again. Like the first changes from Genk 10 being down to 10 men was in the 85th minute. And in the beginning still maybe okay, because to be fair, it was also not Union's best game, also not against 10 men. And so like Genk was not creating much anymore. They actually started in the first half really well. And I mean, the game was relatively even up to the red card. After that, Union struggled for a while to create something, but of course, after that goal from Burgess fell, there I would have expected some changes. That would already not be very early anyway either. That was around the 70th minute, if I'm not mistaken. But a bit weird in my and many other fans' opinion that the changes came so late. But all in all, it is what it is. And again, set pieces for Union as well, making a difference. Also, again, Genk conceding. That's the one thing coming back to the whole season that I'm a little frustrated about. That it seems like they really are not training or not playing. Things are not working out, at least in the games, on the set pieces, because they really don't do anything. That's in the attacking sense as well, but they also concede quite a lot. I don't have the stats on that, so that might be more of a feeling than anything else. But I'm relatively certain Genk is not doing very well on the stats of conceded goals on set pieces, barring penalties as well. But yeah, that's something else. But which is disappointing because we all know Sergers has a really great cross in him, and somehow it doesn't work out. And if it's not him, then Carretzas is most likely on the pitch. Same thing. But yeah, that's an asset that they didn't really work out during the games, at least. And I feel like maybe they didn't focus on enough as well. But but Union, to give them all some credit as well, of course. That's now 19 points out of a possible 21 in the playoffs. And I feel, though, despite that, I still feel like they might need to break the record haul, so they might have to win all 3 games. Getting an incredible 28 points out of all these games. And now I guess it's staying. Now the more it comes more towards this staying composed and try not to, choke it and give it away this time. Now the most difficult part seems to be done with all the Club and Genk games behind them, and in theory weaker teams in the playoffs ahead of them. But of course there's one Brussels side who are a bit on the rise, even though they just lost the cup final. But their level is improving. They also are in the league in a good form now, since they gotten some points now in a row. They will definitely try to not hand the title to Union, at least. But yeah, not that they like Club Brugge much more either, or at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a lose-lose situation for them, isn't it? To be honest. And yeah, well, we presume Genk are out of the title race. They still obviously have a say in the title race with Club Brugge coming up next, and that's a game Union will be, if they're going to drop points any week, they'll want to drop it at the same time that Club could potentially drop points against Genk. But yeah, it's funny. They've done the hunting, and now they're in a familiar kind of situation, which is where they've really struggled the last couple of seasons. But the team's actually quite different when you look at it on paper anyway. So it's kind of like, do they have those same demons, or is it a collective feeling within the club that just kind of... Yeah, I think Alex was on the telly at some point during the Genk game, and he just looked so nervous. So I was like, mate, you've still got 3 more games to go of this hell until you can finally potentially celebrate it.
Yeah, and he was emotional after, I believe it was after the game, or was it with the goal, but I think after the game. For sure. Keep it together, Alex. 2 more games to go.
But, just take a long summer holiday, mate, I reckon.
Yeah, I suppose. But also worth mentioning for Union as well, of course, it's incredible. They only conceded twice so far, and twice quite meaningless goals as well. Like the Antwerp one was a 2-1, so at that point was maybe not meaningless yet, but the game was clearly going Union's way. And then Tolo also scored at the back end only of the game, the reverse fixture of this game. That didn't really matter anymore ultimately.
Which is, I think I was meant to make this point last week or a couple of weeks ago, and I just keep forgetting to. Like, how many times did we mention Anthony Morris last year in negative ways about how he'd costed them points? And this year, like, he hasn't pulled off like amazing saves or anything like that, but he hasn't cost them points like he did last year. And like, that's been really key, because I remember in the summer we were like, they have to get a goalkeeper, and he's been fine.
And like, admittedly, that's the whole team's effort, I guess, because I don't think he's facing many shots. Like, at least from Genk's, it's one thing I forgot to mention about Genk. I've been talking too much about it already, I'm sure, but for many listeners. But like, yeah, they only got one shot on target here, which was in extra time, and like, well, an easy one as well from Sor. And the goal I was talking about before from Tole was also the first shot on target, I think, from Genk. Again, towards the back end of the game, they got a few more after that then, but I don't recall that was super dangerous or anything. So, like the defense is doing a lot of good work there for sure.
Yeah, they're definitely protecting him, which is what they needed to do more of last season. But he was still able to manufacture some mistakes that cost some games. So he's not doing that. So we'll give him some credit there for sure. Obviously, the nearest title challenge is a club. We will talk about the cup final once we get through the league stages. But let's quickly just focus on their game against Ghent, which I was saying, where's Gandelman been? Like, he's the only one that can score goals for Ghent, and then he just pops up because the man gets in the box. And it's just what he does. He gets on the end of things, but the strikers aren't getting in them. So he scored, and I was like, hang on, have we got an upset here? But then Vermont and Solis just said, no, we'll take this lot to pieces, because they're actually not a very good team. And that it's like club just kind of went into kind of actually playing mode, and just took them apart in that second half within the space of what was that, 10 minutes? They just scored 3 goals, made it 4-1. And it's obviously those two are going to be heavily involved on the Sunday as well in the cup final. Vermant's having a really good run of form. Ujoch saying he probably wishes he could play Ghent kind of every single week, because he just keeps scoring goals against them. Because of the cup final, they've now got a European ticket to kind of play for. It looked like they wouldn't, but now they do. They can also have a say in the title race if they want to, but it feels like the only say they're going to have is just losing games. And they're kind of the beer Scott now of this group, where it's like, if you're in that title race with Union and Club, you can't afford to drop points against them, because it's just not going to be helpful at all. But they're only 2 points behind Antwerp now in that hunt for kind of 5th spot and that kind of playoff thing, because Antwerp, then they also lost their game to Anderlecht, as already said. So both Club and Anderlecht went into the kind of cup final like decent form. And like I said, they completely switched around their whole team. Antwerp, no Janssen, he's out for the season, so they kind of struggled. But yeah, it's obviously very clearly Club or Union's one to go for. And do you think the cup final victory for Club will have any kind of impact on them for the back end going for the title? I don't think it will. I think they're just going to go straight back into title race mode. I feel like it's like, okay, great, we won the cup, we'll celebrate it for like the evening, but now it's like straight back in, let's get the double.
Yeah, I reckon so. Like, these things always can go a few ways. Of course, you can look at it both sides. Like, but I don't think a cup win, even though I think it's more of a relief for them that they finally got one after, what was it, 10 years? Then the real happiness that hopefully for them would come at the end of the season. And yeah, finally, they also have been chasing the double for a while. And that must have been frustrating to see Antwerp actually doing that exactly that 2 seasons ago. But yeah, that's for example a side that had that cup already in the back, if I'm not mistaken with the dates, but I think it was so like that. That actually performed really well in the league after that as well. To get also Genk 4 years ago, or what was it? Like same, they won the cup and then had a late ditched half challenge for the title there and finished ultimately at same points, but Club Brugge had already won the title, but snatched the second place spot out of not completely lost, but quite a bad position in these playoffs before that. That form was already going before this the cup, I guess, but that's really carries over in that sense, I think, in this case, this form. Yeah, and on Vermont, it's still, I should have added in the cup final, it also might be possible because I think he only scored against 4 sides still, but Anderlecht was indeed also one of them all still. So he has a few opponents that he likes to score to against, at least at Club Brugge. So this season specifically as well. But I think with Westerlo, he probably scored. He didn't score that many, but I'm sure he scored against some other sides and before that potentially as well. But yeah, still, he knows which opponents he likes, and the fans also like, I guess. So that's that's a nice synergy there between them. But his goal rate is actually exceptional. Of course, now in the last couple of weeks, he's on fire.
Yeah, definitely. And with all the talk kind of about Euclid potentially leaving in the summer and like future striker position, like he has put himself in the position to be the striker next season. Like I've always so I saw him play when he was at Vestal. I think it was it last season against Ghent, and I was like, no, this guy, his movement's really nice. He's good, pretty good with his feet. Like he's quite dynamic compared to Nielsen. Like he's a bit more of a kind of threat and links up well with those kind of other players, which you saw with Solis, that he'll get in front of the kind of defender with the crosses coming in and doing all that sort of stuff. Like, I do think they've got to ride with him next year because I think they'll still have Nielsen. They can bring Nielsen off the bench if they want, but I'd probably ride with him for now, for the beginning at least.
But you saw him against Ghent again, of course.
Yeah, that's true. And
also, more importantly, of course, he still needs to sign a new contract because it ends after next season. So it's but I suppose he got himself the extension in the past couple of weeks. If people still needed convincing in the club, but he also might want to have more. But I guess they can afford, most likely.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If someone thinks, actually, 21-year-old striker at Club Brugge is looking pretty good, I'll come with a bid in the summer. Like they could try and tempt club into selling now. So, yeah, that's an interesting one to think. I didn't realise his contract was up at the end of next season. So that's kind of ironic. Yeah, funny time to find some form. There's always players that do stuff like that, though. That's for sure. Let's jump into the second playoffs now, because I mean, this weekend coming up could be the end of kind of any sort of real competition in this one. Quickly run through the results. So Westerlo kept their kind of chances of winning it alive with a 4-2 win over Dender. Mechelen beat Leuven 2-1, and then Charleroi beat Standard Liège 1-0. And that's kind of the big result because that keeps Charleroi 4 points ahead of Westerlo. Stulic scoring again. I think his playoff stats are pretty decent at the moment. 5 goals in 7 games, 2 assists. That's 14 goals, I believe, he scored this season. We've been crying out for them to sign a striker that can get into double figures, and he's doing that. So fair play, he's looking pretty good. Although Delavely did have to make 5 saves, I think it was. So yeah, he was quite busy in between the sticks against Standard. But Standard, they don't really have a massive goal threat. They don't like playing in the playoffs anyway because they're just rubbish in the playoffs and they've lost again. And they're now, 9 points behind Charleroi in a league where like no one's winning that many games in that one. So yeah, it's Charleroi Westerlo next weekend. If Charleroi avoid defeat, I think, that's it. They're not going to drop too many points after that. So I think we can say with like 75 to 80% certainty it's going to be Charleroi in the kind of winning this playoff and being in that competition against Antwerp and Ghent. And I think they could probably beat one of those teams. It's not like, oh no, there's no chance. And I think out of all the teams I said last week, I think they are the best place to do that. But for the rest of them, it's kind of now not much to play for sort of vibe again. And I think that is one of the big problems with this playoff is like, because there's just one playoff ticket, there's one potential ticket in it. That's what kind of kills it quite early on. So I will not miss playoff 2. I think that's safe to say. I'm not the biggest fan of playoff 2. Playoff 1's fun, but playoff 2, not too fast.
Yeah, and okay, that seems like a high percentage, but on the other hand, it could indeed be decided if results fall one way in the next game. But Charleroi still play against the 3 teams right behind them, but okay. Yeah, some of them might not be in any modes anymore anyway by the time Charleroi have to play them as well. So that's the sad thing a little bit. They can maybe build up some form indeed for that playoff game if they reach it, of course. If Westerlo win it, though, then it would start getting interesting again, at least for the winning of that playoff. So that will be an interesting one to see, because Westerlo has been playing quite well. For sure, as well, putting 4 behind Dender now as well. A game we probably need to touch on anyway, because it has some historical relevance with 4 penalties given, which was the first time since the other Westerlo game in Westerlo Genk against Genk in '99. So the first time this century that it actually happened. 4 penalties or more in the Genk game. It was even 5, but yeah, one penalty more disputable than others as well. I mean, maybe we can also just give an overall comment again on all the referees. There were across all fields a lot of weird decisions here, and cheap penalties given, and then others not given. But it's very difficult like this to follow. The consistency is completely gone in. Okay, some of them, like the Genk ones, get a little more attention because they have a bit more relevance in like winning the title and so on, in the title race at least. But also in playoff 2, like maybe not many people watch it outside of us, but yeah, okay, maybe some betting people do. But I'm not insinuating anything here, but I am. Definitely
I
not.
would
But
not
like,
bet on playoff 2. If I'm a betting man,
it's
I wouldn't touch it with anything.
no, fair enough. Indeed, but it also, of course, worth highlighting Frigan's goal, which was a brilliant one. If it weren't in playoff 2, and at this stage, it may be even a contender for goal of the season or the month or something. Season might be a bit much, but month at least, I think. Yeah, yeah, and then they're throwing everything away actually in 15 minutes time as well. They actually were up front with 1-2, and that became 3-2 very early, or maybe 4-2 even fell already in this 15 minutes span. But anyway, the turnaround had been coming in this 15 minute spell. Yeah, and touching on other games again, like maybe another fact is still unbelievable. Standard not winning for 26 or even 27 games now in a row in playoffs. They really do not want to give any money and win bonuses to their players. Like I was saying last week, they're like, when it's not needed. When I mean, they were actually in a really good position before. Like they were they were in Charleroi place before this playoff started, and now they're 9 points behind and out of the race. Like, well, because of that first finish, maybe not technically not, but well, more than probably miracle needed there for any side anyway to still overtake Charleroi. Westerlo maybe a bit less, since they have that game now at this time coming up. If they can do something there, maybe they still have some hopes. But yeah, definitely. And then Mechelen, yeah, okay, they kind of helped Charleroi as well in a better position now with winning and then putting Leuven down for a second home loss for Leuven only this season still. But yeah, it might be the one too many for keeping their chances for this ticket alive. And yeah, that's not much more to say about that game, I guess, as well. But yeah, well, except of course no draw for Leuven. Yeah, disappointed, very disappointed. They need at least 2 now to in this least like next 2-3 games to get my weird obsession in order.
I mean, there's definitely a chance. I can't remember who they've got in their next couple of games. Dender, Westerlo, Charleroi. Yeah, well, they could probably draw a couple of those. I can see it coming. That's for sure. Yeah, it's just I just don't know how I feel about if Westerlo did make it into that playoff game, because I just don't think they'd have much of a chance. But if they make it, they make it. Fair play. Good luck to them. But I don't think it's good for the coefficient. Let's just say that if any of these teams made it into European football, I could see them losing quite easy in the early rounds to anyone, to be honest. Side that were in European football this season, very easy to forget the circle. They welcomed Kortrijk. Kortrijk had to win, and they did win. They won that one 2-0. All eyes then turned to St. Truden against Beerschot. Basically, Kortrijk, because they can only draw level with points with Cercle Bruges, they basically they needed to catch St Truden. Like, that was their way of staying up. They needed Beerschot to win. If you're kind of in a position where you're like, oh, I need Beerschot to win in order for myself to stay up, then you know that you're basically relegated already. They almost caused a little bit of a shock when they scored late on. I was like, oh, are they gonna do anything? But they didn't. So unfortunately, despite winning, St Truden's victory means they have been relegated. That's 17 years in the Pro League done and dusted. It's probably come 3 seasons later than we thought it was going to come. And this one's more of a surprise than it was if they'd gone down last year. So I was expecting to go down last year after the terrible kind of summer thing. This year, I'm going to have to look at my prediction thing, but I probably had them in mid-table. I thought for Alexanderson, the way they finished last season, they'd be pushing forward. I thought they'd made some reasonable signings on paper by the look of things. Like, it felt like they'd been doing some stuff. And just go to say, if they'd got Stork in earlier, and if they'd got some of the players that they eventually brought in, like Idamar Icha and some of those guys earlier, maybe they'd have had a better chance. But unfortunately, that loss to Beerschot has basically scuppered everything for them. They're going down. Interesting to see kind of what happens there over the summer. I don't know if you've seen anything about Stork saying if he's going to stay or go. They haven't said anything on the website or anything at the moment, so we'll see kind of what happens there. I expect a lot of players to leave. I think if Kadri's playing Challenger Pro League football, there should be a massive, massive inquiry and investigation into some sort of corrupt practice going on, because there's no way that man should be playing second-tier football. But then there's a lot of those players that probably they're not good enough for the Pro League, so they probably won't come back into the top flight. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, and it's a shame to see them go. Obviously, they've been here throughout our podcast, so good luck to them down there. For Circle now, it's kind of, you're just hoping that Kortrijk go out on a high and can at least take a point or beat St Truden in that final game. For Circle, yeah, they've got to beat what St Truden do to stay up automatically, or they will go into the relegation playoff. We'll talk about the kind of first leg of the final as well in that. But Joris, I guess your reaction to Kortrijk going down, and then kind of how you think it might play out in the final match day of the relegation playoff.
Yeah, like you said, a bit unexpected. Well, not in the end, not unexpected, I guess, that they go down anymore. But like after the end of last season, and then actually starting the season reasonably well as well, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, it might have only lasted 3 or 4 games, to be fair, but they had maneuvered themselves at least into the midfield at that stage of the season, and it quickly went downhill, unfortunately, though. Yeah. 17 years of it gives me a feeling I'm getting old, because I remember like it had been a while since I think at that time it was the first time I saw them personally in the Belgian in the first division, it's confronting. So don't do that to us football clubs. I feel old now, but always difficult game there for many sides, also top sides. That ground was not always. Also, the pitch was not always as good as well as you hoped. That's of course. They're right, and then like not always easy to maintain either. There might be different factors for that, but the fans were also their worst fan bases in the league as well. So like they definitely deserve a little shout here. Now they did say that like in the past couple of months at least. We were, of course, hoping to still survive, but we have been working on a plan B for next season in case we do go down, because, well, actually now I guess they actually came a little bit closer still. One game against Beerschot ultimately maybe potentially at least deciding their fate. That's closer than we thought it would be. Or many thought it would be at this stage of the season, but ultimately it's not enough, and let's see if they indeed have a plan B, or if they actually can execute it as well as they can in terms of that fighting for promotion next season, which it's not going to be an easy task, of course, with only one potential relegator in the first division. On the other hand, yeah, I believe they. Okay, I don't know their financial status at the moment. That's always a bit tricky. Last few seasons, as we know, they should be good enough to at least on paper and without the whole transfer window ahead of us, of course, which changes our opinion. And you will hear our actual opinion in a few months' time, most likely, if we do a Challenger League preview, Pro League preview. But they should be good enough to get into the first two spots and get that promotion on, is what you would say at the moment. But that's something you probably always will say about the relegator signs. To be fair, in many leagues across Europe, it actually has been happening a bit more, that these situations happen, that the big teams are really on the elevator going one up and one down, promoted and relegated, and so forth. But we'll see. I think Kortrijk at least have the potential to be like that, and they might be back soon. If not, again, I don't know, financial status, then that might become a bit even a lot more trickier as well, of course. As I think many people in Zultuarium also are very happy that they did manage to go get that promotion this season, because I'm assuming they would have to dial down. They probably already did this season, but would have had to dial down even more if they would have missed it this season. So that's always a risk with sides in danger. And Kortrijk did have some transfers in the transfer window as well, of course, in January. I don't know how much they cut in their cut in their own flesh with doing that, but I'm presuming, since they already knew the position they were in, that they didn't take that big of risks there either. Shame to see them go, but it had been coming, and that was quite a long explanation there. But also, shame on Cercle Brugge for losing twice against them this season at home. That's that's put them in a different difficult position. But we might get to that now as well. Maybe I'll just segue to that now. Of course, Cercle now, they were in pole position to escape without any issues. Ultimately, without having to play another game or a few other games, playoff games out of these playoffs. But as you touched on already, they do need to win against Beerschot. Beerschot away as well, of course, slightly different side than when Beerschot play away from home themselves, where they have not managed to win a single game this season. And I believe this streak is also going on for more than the standard results in playoff one. I think it's around 30 or even more, because last time around, of course, they went down with even less fights. So I don't think there was, maybe there might have been one victory somewhere at the beginning there, but of that season, two or is it already 3 seasons ago? I don't have it in my memory, but it's really a very, very long streak, around 30 games or more away from home, that Beerschot have not won at home. They've looked a bit more decent. Another decent fan base that is unfortunately disappearing out of the league as well, of course. But decent. They can go too far. Of course, that's something else. But trying to not put all the fans in one box here. At least there's some things around that club that are like fun, but sometimes they go a bit over the edge. Yes, but the fun part is the one I guess we should remember. And they will have their own issues as well, of course. Next season, as we do know, they are indeed struggling financially, and with the takeover and so on, we'll have to see how everything goes there. Okay, and I was going to say I was going to talk about Cercle Brugge instead of those other sides, but so they lost. Scoring is still an issue. and now I really need to win against Beerschot indeed. The fair thing to say, they were also not very happy with the refereeing, and especially with the penalty that they got against them, I guess. That's understandable as well. Like it's very narrow touch. Maybe it looks clumsy, so I've seen them given, but it's not that it would be a very big shame to let this one go. That was for the second goal of Kortrijk as well, of course. Putting I mean, they were already behind, so they already had a difficult task ahead, but that made it with their goal scoring record near to impossible, unfortunately. Which is the one worry I have for Cercle Brugge as well, if they would end up in these playdowns against the Challenger Pro League side. If they can't score goals, they can't win games. They relegate. I guess it's simple as that. Although you would think that they have enough quality, they should have enough quality anyway to beat the side they will play against, whether that will be Lokeren, Temso, or Pato Eze. And of course, if they win the game against Beerschot, everything's still possible. But Sint-Truiden, of course, definitely did themselves a large favor, not only with winning the game, their own game, but now because of that, with Kortrijk being relegated and them having to play them, so Kortrijk are not in a fight anymore. So of course they will want to win and end on a high note in the season, but the motivation, I can imagine, must be a little bit less. But okay, we've seen weirder things, stranger things have happened, so it's also possible they are free of any worries and play them off the park. But to be honest, at the moment, if I would have to bet, and I don't have to, but I would indeed think that the current situation is not going to change anymore after the last match day in this playoffs, and that will be tough for Cercle Brugge, who should not have been in this position in the first place, no.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a frustrating way for it to go as well, because I reckon Kortrijk gets something against Sint-Truiden, but I think because Cercle can't score, they're not going to get the result they actually need at Beerschot. That's how I can see it going, and that'd be really frustrating. And how will that psychologically affect them going into the playoff? Not sure. Like, to be fair, like, they had enough chances to score goals against Kortrijk, but yeah, Ebidiv Vlamik was insane in goal. He made, well, there was one save it was actually offside eventually, but I don't know how he did it. I think it was like a back post header that he saved, and he gets up to deny the rebound. And I mean, if you're Zulte Waregem fans, you're kind of watching that being like, okay, there's our goalkeeper for next season. Like this guy's, he's 19, but he's got to play. Like, he's really, really good. We've been faffing around with all these other goalkeepers this season. Like he's like the fifth one they've gone to, and he might be the best. So fair play to him. Good to see him. For Zulte Waregem, obviously, this is like perfect season, isn't it? Your rivals get relegated and you get promoted, and it's quite nice for them. That kind of adds
on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, of course, you want to have that derby.
Exactly, well. Like it is, so and it's a really it's a great one. Yeah. Like, because you mentioned the Kortrijk fans, and I always like watching games in their stadium and stuff like that, because those guys behind the goal are just fantastic. Like, it just looks like a really good, fun atmosphere, and it's definitely one I've wanted to try. So maybe we'll have to go, but we'll be going for second tier football. But yeah, no, I'm more concerned about Cercle in that kind of playoff like you are. I think on paper they've got the quality, but have they got the people that can put the ball in the back of the net? Like, I think whoever they play out of Lokeren or Patro, that they're going to create a bunch of chances. It's just like, can someone finally step up and stick it in the back of the net? And we'll quickly talk about that before we get to the cup final and then finish this episode. But yeah, first leg, Lokeren at home, and Patro won that one by 2-1. Simon Bammans with 2 goals. One in the first half, one late-ish on in the second half to give Patro a 2-1 lead heading back home. So obviously psychologically a massive boost to get the away win. But we saw what Lokeren did in Molenbeek. Like, they're quite a resilient side. They could definitely come back in this one. And if you're Cercle Sint-Truiden, obviously you can't really think about it at the moment. But out of those two sides, I don't think you really should be worried about which one you're going to play, because on paper you should be able to beat either of them. But yeah, it's still, I don't know. I just don't know how to kind of read it over 2 legs. I feel like Lokeren are going to really, really take it to them in the second leg, and I think it could be a really good set. But I think Patro, after winning that first leg, I think they probably will win it out. I can see them kind of at home, cold showers, all that sort of stuff. Maybe no water, just turn all the water off, turn everything off. Because especially if it's hot, no cold water, just hot water, and like they put the heating on or something horrible like that. Like going there is not where you want to go when you're trying to get back into a game. But I still don't think either of those 2 sides will get promoted. But we could be completely wrong. I don't know if you agree, Joris.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm not so certain because I've watched large parts of that first playoff game, and it's a very undeserved victory for Pato, in my opinion as well. Okay, we're creating a lot more, but they kind of had the same issue as Cercle in that sense. In this game, they only were able to score via a penalty, which again was something we can talk about. There's something about the penalties in here, of course. But of course, there's an overhanging fact still. If Lokeren get there, will they actually be able to promote because of not having the case and not having an actual license in time at least, and not trying to get one even? So that would be a whole other topic again, but. I fear it. They might actually, well, in that sense, fear if for legal battles and so on, they might actually get there, because they were from the parts that I saw, largely the better side. So I wouldn't be surprised if they can turn it around. Of course, it's also only 1 goal difference, but okay. It's still a blow, of course, to lose it, and even when being better, maybe the better or more dominant side. But could be an interesting game to watch. Not necessarily for the quality, but more for the tension in that one. And then, I also still feel like, at least when it's because it's 2 legs, the second division sides have actually less chances as well. Which, I mean, you can argue about whether that's fair that it's about 2 games, and that because of course everyone knows that it should be an advantage for the side in the first division on paper, at least. Who knows how everything pans out? But that could be an interesting one to watch, for sure. One other thing to mention about the relegation playoffs as well is, of course, Bertaccini scoring twice and being joint top scorer again now. So, will he overtake Tolu? Of course, depending on where Sint-Truiden finish, but if they stay in the same position, has a few more games, but against better opponents, to catch on and catch up with. Put some more in the back of the net. What I'm favoring and what I'm hoping for, but who knows what will happen. But a really good season for Bertaccini on individual level at least, and imagine Sint-Truiden without him as well.
It's the old Gianni Bruno effect, isn't it? They can only ever have one guy scoring goals every season, and it's just Bertaccini this year. And I'm sure Ghent will sign him in the summer. I feel like that's like it's like almost guaranteed that he's going to end up at Ghent. But watch him just shoot every time he gets the ball against Kortrijk to try and give himself as much of a chance to beat Tolly as possible. Let's go to the final game. We've kind of hinted it already. People probably know the result. Club obviously winning the cup for the first time in forever. Like you said, Joris, it felt like a more relief than it was anything else. For Mountwood 2, the second one, the celebration, I was like, you better win it now, lads, because you can't be this kind of... This is an iconic picture of the 3 of them, Deshari, Vermaat and Solis sitting together. I was like, it's cool. I like it. I like the confidence. But I was like, please, you got to win, because if you don't, that picture's going to be like plastered all around Brussels afterwards with a lot of mocking. But they came out like the Vasquez goal. Like I didn't see Anderlecht scoring. I don't know. I just couldn't really see them scoring. Like they had chances and stuff like that, but I was just like, I just can't. And then he came on, I was like, oh, Vasquez isn't going to score. And he did. So fair play to him for getting that one over the line. But yeah, Koesmans came up. I was like, is Koesmans going to score from like a set piece or something? Is this how this game's going to end? For Club, it didn't. And I think Club would have kicked themselves if they had somehow phoned this one away. Although I was interested that Hein took Vermaat off when he'd already scored 2. I was like, you're not going to give him a chance for a hat-trick in a cup final? Like, that seems a little bit harsh. Like, I know he'd picked up a booking, but you'd think, yeah, give him another chance.
Especially since, it was a 2-goal lead, but it's not that, Club were the dominant side and deserved a victory, but it's, to be honest, that I thought it would be even clearer. They probably could have scored very early on already, and the game could have been decided earlier, but a 2-goal lead, I mean, indeed, now Anderlecht did get one back, at least in this last what was it, final minutes anyway. There was some tension on the for sure, and you never know what happens then, and then you took him off, and that's it.
Yeah, and he obviously brought off. Like, I get the other subs, like Onyedika. I'd definitely take him off with 15 minutes to go in a cup final, because that man's a walking yellow card. I love him. Like, they're not saying like I'm a big Onyedika fan. I love the way he plays, but blimey, he's always getting booked, and he's always got a red card up his sleeve. And then a couple of the other ones, like Van Aken, obviously hobbling off. I haven't seen anything else about that injury, or kind of what that could mean. Jan Vertonghen getting on, I was like, maybe he's going to score. I was like, maybe it's kind of written for Big Jan to kind of score in his last couple of games, but it wasn't to be. And at least this is no kind of comfort, I guess, for Anderlecht fans, because they want to win the cup. But at least it means you're not going to have Besnik Hazi as your head coach next season. Like, you will have a new head coach. Like, any chance of Hazi staying is surely now completely gone. You're putting a funny face. Like, surely.
You would think so, but Van den Houten's comments after the cup final were a lot different than the reactions were when they lost the last cup final. So, of course, in the league, like I touched on very quickly as well, they did win 3 games in a row now. So, in that sense, they're doing better than Genk at the moment in the playoffs as well. Whether that's mainly their own doing or else. Other factors like the schedule and Genk performing really badly, that I'll leave that in the middle for now, but they did get some points. It's very likely, it looks that they will get into Europe. Maybe that's even already mathematically certain because of fixtures between other sides. I'm not completely certain here, but they're comfortable enough anyway. They get that one over the line, the 4th position. Definitely. I mean, there are signs of improvements, like I also touched on in this game. They didn't deserve to win it, but they tried somehow. I mean, they were like, it was not as this might sound a bit too harsh, but like, it was less pathetic than I expected. Let's put it that way. For a cup final, there was some fight in it. They didn't create that much, but they were able to find some spaces at least. Sometimes they didn't necessarily get an event product, but it was quite open in the end of the game. And in the open game part, Anderlecht still did their thing at times, not all the time, and less included it, but some signs of encouragement. So but my main thing here is like what came out of the club's president at the moment is not necessarily looking at because they will get that European ticket, and that might have been the main goal ultimately, and then like getting some points. But we'll see. Maybe that was external communication. Internally, things might be different as well, of course. And Van den Houten himself, of course, is not the least controversial figure in that club at the moment, but I guess he still has a say. So.
Maybe it's like putting out the feelers to see kind of what reaction they'll get from the press and the fans, and I presume it won't be positive, to be honest, because nothing against Hazi. Like, he did a great job at Mechelen last year, did an okay job at them this year. I think injuries weren't helping and stuff, and the squad wasn't great, but like, that doesn't qualify you for an Anderlecht job. Like, let's be kind of completely transparent. This is one of the biggest clubs in Belgian football. They should be competing for the title every single season. they have also, there's like an expectation of how they're going to go about things and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't think Hazy, he just doesn't seem to fit. He just doesn't really seem to fit for me in terms of what they want to do. But I mean, if Company can lose the final and get sacked and then go get the Bayern Munich job, like he's going to be Real Madrid manager after Ancelotti. So congratulations, Vesnik Hazy, on getting the Madrid job. It's very impressive stuff. But obviously first trophy
Is
for
that
the
a
club.
scoop?
Sure. Yeah. Part of the Vesnik Hazy fan club.
We need to find a very clickbaity episode title now as well when we're there.
Yeah. Send it to who's that bloke that just recycles everyone else's news? The transfer guy. I'll send it to him. Romano. Yeah. I'll send it to him. He'll push it out, I'm sure. If I give him enough money, I reckon he will. But yeah, it's obviously club won the first trophy of the season in terms of not the Community Shield, Super Cup, whatever we call it. They're now obviously chasing the double. Union chasing the title. It's set up for a fantastic kind of final couple of weeks. That's probably all for this week. Joris, it's been great. 2-man show in this one with you.
Yeah, I fear there's one topic we want to avoid, but we cannot really, surrounding the cup final as well, of course. Very sad, the fan violence, and also at the other hand, admittedly also fans being attacked. But yeah, from the biggest side in Brussels, going to the stadium mainly, I believe. I think there were some more shenanigans even yesterday still, but that might be unrelated. But also now leading towards the ban for the fans. At the moment, at least, it's decided that they would. That for the next Anderlecht Club Brugge, which is in about a week's time, 10 days time, there won't be any away fans allowed. In theory, it could be a title-winning game as well. So of course, Club Brugge is not happy with that decision. So we'll see what comes out of that in the end if they return that decision. But I'm not sure if that would be the wisest one, to be honest. But that's up for debate, and that many people will disagree with me on that one, I guess. But just a splinter of news.
We'll obviously update next week when we find out if that is definitely going to happen and kind of what's going on there. It'll be a massive shame because it's obviously not every fan is responsible for the actions of some fans, and should they be denied that stadium experience just because of it? I don't personally think so. I think you should come down on the culprits, but easier said than done, that is for sure. But hopefully we won't see any fan violence or any sort of that sort of stuff this weekend. Is there anything else? Anything else I might have missed? Are we good? Well, I think
we are.
We got there. As I said, we will be releasing a RAL special at some point in the next couple of weeks. Scott will more than likely be back next week for those of you from the fan club who have missed him. So, that is something to look forward to. If you enjoyed this episode and other episodes that we've done, please do leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. You can also donate to us at Buy Me a Coffee. All the links are available on our socials. So, we really appreciate those of you that have done that and those of you that might be about to do that right now while you're listening. Thank you very much. But as always, thank you so much for listening, and we'll speak to you again very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.